A very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Thursday morning. And yet more players being linked to West Ham United. Oh, exciting times. Got to ask you a question. How many central defenders can you fit into a phone box? Was it just me who was surprised by the number of central defenders named on Wednesday that we're meant to be linked to, that we're meant to be shortlisting? Look, if you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. Costs you nothing to subscribe to the channel. All the content is always free. And if nothing else, please also hit the like button, which helps the channel to sort of go up in the YouTube algorithms, apparently. Now, the day started where we were told that there are two central defenders that we were linked to, but the club wanted to keep their identities secret because they didn't want to alert other clubs that we were in negotiations with the players and their respective clubs. And it was on Sean Whetstone's Twitter account where this message was put out. And it said, West Ham will pursue two centre-back targets of Tim Steidten if Kurt Zouma departs the club before the transfer window ends. It went on to say the Hammers are staying tight-lipped on the, and I laugh because I'll tell you why in a minute. The Hammers are staying tight-lipped on the identity of the two defensive targets identified by technical director Tim Steidten for fear of alerting other clubs. Now, for fear of alerting other clubs, and then later on in the same day, on Wednesday, a whole host of names started to drop across social media platforms. Now, many of the names I've discussed and many other channels have discussed over the past, throughout the whole transfer window. Now, look, dependent on the ITK that you follow, the YouTube channels that you watch, and the social media columns that you read, the combined total number of centre-backs that were named on Wednesday fell into double figures. And then, to top it all, well, not quite, but to add to it, Sky Sports reported that the club told them of two names that West Ham United were targeting. Chelsea's Trevor Chalobah and former Borussia Dortmund player Mats Hummels, who's now out of contract. He's a free agent. And then, as I said, almost soon after that, all the names started to drop. Look, these aren't any names that will be unfamiliar to you. John Chalobah I've mentioned, Hummels I've mentioned, Jean-Claire Todibo of Juve, where Juventus still can't, not of Juve, of OGC Nice, where Juve still can't seem to agree some kind of payment term on the player. But we're still waiting around in the background, apparently, just in case that deal falls through. Fikayo Tomori, who we've been briefly linked to from AC Milan, a more recent player, Mario Hermoso, another free agent who was at Atletico Madrid, Omar Sole, who we talked about a week or so ago, who's in his final year at his contract at Red Bull Salzburg, Fabrizio Bruno, the Brazilian of Brazilian club Flamengo, who we spoke about right at the very start of the transfer window. I've got to ask myself, how come his name has come back up again? A name I wasn't familiar with, I must have missed it in all the hoo-ha, is Diego Carlos of Aston Villa. Apparently, Lopetegui is, keeping a check on the player because of his contract situation at Aston Villa. Didn't know that one. Kevin Danso of French club Lens, who would qualify as a homegrown player. And Jan Bissek, the young centre-back of Inter Milan, who is considered to be one of the biggest talents of the future. All these names are players who we've spoken about. So they're hardly players that we got to keep a hush-hush on because we know about them all. I don't know if I've missed any out. I probably have. But, I'm confused because the story started on Wednesday morning that we wanted to keep player names hush-hush. And then all of a sudden, all these names have come out. And why? Now, look, I think there's a simple reason why, to be honest with you. I wonder if West Ham are just playing this clever game of pushing a lot of information out on social media, knowing that channels like mine and other social media channels, etc., we're gonna talk about them in order to distract other clubs from the players that we're really after. I wonder if that's the ploy, sort of, get a whole load of player names out there in order to create confusion, in order to deflect and divert attention from the players that we're really after. Now, look, all the names that have been listed, some make sense more than others in terms of targeting them. For example, Chaloba and Tamori would certainly help to fill the homegrown criteria. But then, so as I've mentioned, would Kevin Danso from Lens, who started his footballing career at Reading and MK Dons youth academies before moving to German club Augsburg at the age of 17. Now, if we do not sign Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and it looks like we may not, we're going to need to target one more player to give us that homegrown criteria. Then when it comes to cost, given that we may look at moving Kurt Zouma on without a fee, some may say that getting a free agent to replace him at a much lower salary than his would seem to make good business sense. So that throws the likes of Hummels and Hermoso into the equation. And then if you want players who may be able to do a job now, as well as being young enough to be considered as investments for the future, then you're probably going to look at someone like Solé or Bissek. Now, it is quite possible that the information that was given to Sky is accurate and that we are indeed prioritising Chaloba and Hummels. But are we? Look, we know, first of all, that we've got to move players on. We've been told over and over again that we're not going to have 4 centre-backs at West Ham United going into the new season. So that means if we're looking for 2, that means we've got to move 2 on. And I know that Zouma, as we've already spoken about, has interest from a Dubai club, Shabab Al Ali. And I guess we're going to have to wait to see the outcome of that. And then we also know that Zouma and Aguerd has turned down several offers because they're not the sort of clubs that he wants to go to. And then we also know, well, and then we don't know about Dinos Mavropanos. Things have remained quiet over his future, and he hasn't exactly covered himself in glory during pre-season to give Lopetegui a selection headache. Now, I mentioned rather cheekily a few weeks ago that perhaps Mavropanos could be the player that we would move on, and it may be that we'll hold on to Aguerd instead of selling him as a backup to Kilman. Now, could be utilised in a back 3, maybe. He could be actually played alongside Kilman. Kilman has played on the left side of central defence several times over. Maybe the reason why we are making so much noise in media is possibly because Zouma and possibly Aguerd are a lot closer to leaving West Ham than we realise. There's a great push that's going on. Now, as I've said, we aren't going to have more than 4 centre-backs at the club. We're going to have to move 2 on in order to get 2 in. So I just wonder whether we are a lot closer to seeing the end of Zouma and Aguerd at West Ham United. Now, as for who we're targeting, now, if we go by Sean's tweet, which made it clear that these are Steidten signings, Steidten players that he's identified, then my money would go on to a few players that have got German links. I've got 3 players on my list that I've got in mind. The first, of course, is wrong one, gave the game away there, is Jonathan Tah. Now, look, he's in the final year of his contract. Of the 3 players that I've got in mind, he would be the most expensive. Steidten knows him well during his time at Leverkusen. He's a German international, great physical presence, a good leader on the pitch, a composed footballer, great ball player, massive physical presence. He would actually transform our defence. a towering 6'5" defender, who is a regular German international, etc. He would actually really change the way we play at the back. Next up is, for me, Malik Chow. Now, spoke about Chow a few weeks ago when we were talking about Tomori as well. Now, he's contracted to Milan till 2027. Value of him is round about 30 odd million. Steidten, the reason why I've included him again is what I said a few weeks ago. Steidten approached the player's agent last October for the potential January move. And the only thing that scuppered it was that the player got a hamstring injury, which kept him out for a considerable amount of time. I think quite possibly we might be back in for him. Now, I know apparently Newcastle have apparently been quoted around about 40 million euros, but I'm not so sure how valid that report is. Great technical ability, comfortable on the ball, great agility, only 22 years of age. If Steidten saw it fit to approach AC Milan I think it was last October, then why not again now? And it's very, very likely, very, very possible he could be high on the list of targets for centre back. And then the last one that I've got on my list is Maxence Lacroix from Wolfsburg, German club Wolfsburg. He's been at Wolfsburg since 2020. So again, Steidten will know quite a bit about him. 24 years of age. He's represented France at junior level, but not yet at international level. He's in the final. This is the interesting thing about Lacroix. He's in the final year of his contract, and he could be the cheapest of the three at around about at maximum 20 million euros. He's got all the attributes that you would expect from a defender. Great tackling ability, great aerial presence, great composure, passing ability, etc. And the one thing that he does possess in abundance is his pace. It's quite rare for a centre back to have the sort of pace that Lacroix has, and it'll be very useful, especially when Lopetegui is looking to play the high line. It's suggested that talks have been initiated already with the player and his representatives. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I could be completely wrong. It could be Chalobah. It could be Hummels that we get in. But I just wonder whether Steidten has thrown the market a curveball in order to really detract from the defenders that he's targeting. I'll be back again. I know there's a lot of talk about right backs at the moment, and it looks like the Aaron Wan-Bissaka deal might not happen. And apparently we're linked to Kieran Trippier. I'm not so sure about that, but I will do another separate video about that over the coming days, maybe even later today. Thank you all for watching. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all again very soon.